The fight for equality in our schools. As you may have seen in the news headlines recently, the little girl at the center of the landmark Supreme Court case that ended school segregation has died. Linda Brown, who made history breaking barriers and changing the direction of this country, was 76. Unfortunately, the struggle that began in 1954's Brown versus Education did not end there. For the last 4 years, Charlotte has been caught in the crosshairs. A 2013 study ranked the Queen City last in economic mobility. Determined to improve residents' chances to move out of poverty, the community has been searching for solutions. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools just completed its own survey of the problem. Carolina Impact's Tanisha Johnson takes a closer look at the age-old problem and the new way the district plans to address the issue of segregation and academic achievement gaps.
Each year, more than 100,000 students from 183 different countries fill classroom seats in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system, but not everyone is getting what they need. Just a little over 7 months into the job, CMS Superintendent Dr. Clayton Wilcox is tackling the problem head-on. He says simply aiming for equality, which makes sure every student gets the same resources, isn't good enough. He wants to make sure that there's equity amongst all, which means every kid gets what they need to succeed, even when the needs differ.
I think you begin with first acknowledging that you aren't teaching the past, you're teaching the kids in front of you today. And then you ask yourself, what do these kids need to be successful in the 21st century?
Some of the answers come from the district's Breaking the Link report, which illustrates the connection between poverty, race, and academic performance among schools. It shows kids in high poverty schools need more time in class because they're suspended more experienced teachers because they often end up with first-year teachers, and access to advanced placement classes, which they're less likely to be encouraged to take.
It is an incredible challenge, but it's also the challenge that I've chosen for myself.
One that he's no stranger to, as he has a history of leading school districts troubled by race and equality.
I think the metaphor of, it's an elephant, how do you eat this thing, is actually a very apt one, because there are lots of issues here that are at play, and none of them actually began yesterday.
Journalist and former CMS parent Bea Thompson knows that all too well. She was bused as a child miles across Charlotte in the 70s after court-mandated integration.
We didn't really have a choice. We were simply told you have to go to this school. And so I go to this school. And then the students that I'm with at that school tell me I'm at their school. So I'm not a part of this school.
For Thompson, busing did not solve the issue of segregation or equal education.
I think to a certain extent it was a pacification of the people that we did what you asked.
We've had our poster up here, and then we're going to be moving on. You're working on your research.
Teaching for more than 25 years, CMS social studies teacher Sarah Wheeler agrees previous integration efforts failed.
They both were on the same campus, but they weren't genuinely integrated, and so they weren't really interacting with each other. Therefore, you didn't genuinely have community on that campus.
I think what works against us is people's own self-interest. I mean, because people believe that if they go to school with people who look like them, who think like them, who share the same value structures, that they'll be better off. But they do that really from a position of not knowing what they could be missing.
I think this country is looking at systemic racism.
We talked to education advocate and author Stephanie Deutsch in 2017. Her great-grandfather-in-law, Julius Rosenwald, helped fund schools for African-American children in the rural South. She believes today's students and parents take education for granted.
I think with that has come some complacency about what education can mean to us.
Professor of History and great-grandson of Booker T. Washington, Marshall Abui, sees another foundational issue.
The foundation of the society is the family, so if we don't have strong, viable families, then we'll never even be able to get to first base in terms of the road to equality.
One thing is clear, Finding a solution will take the entire community.
We need the parents and grandparents of our kids to feel welcomed in our schools, to bring the stories, to bring the expertise. That's the only way we're going to get better, is if we all do this together.
And the ultimate goal has got to be a homogenous community where everybody gets what they need, and where we don't make distinctions based on what you look like or where you come from.
Wilcox says if students need more instructional time, they'll get it. More effective teachers, that too. Help with learning gaps, it's on the way. And more access to advanced classes and educational opportunities, yes, along with classroom materials that support and inspire today's kids.
We don't show them text where they see people who look like them doing big things. And so I think that's where we've got to kind of turn the boat a little bit and say, we've got to get the right resources in for our kids.
But Dr. Wilcox says CMS can't do it alone.
We need people who understand other people's circumstance and perhaps have a degree of humility, but also a degree of compassion for others.
Wilcox says it will take years to accomplish CMS's goals, and he's not even sure if they'll reach them all. But he's hoping CMS turns the corner as the district goes out into the community, talking to parents and various leaders and other organizations that will help to give students what they need and deserve. For Carolina Impact, I'm Tanisha Johnson reporting.
Thanks so much, Tanisha. CMS is putting its money where its mouth is, spending more per child in areas where high poverty schools exist. The district is reevaluating what resources they spend their money on to be sure that schools get what they actually need for better results.